to the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Monday morning. This Veterans Day 2024. We should probably spend the next 4 hours honoring veterans as opposed to talking about these two miserable football teams, but that's what we have to do. There's been a lot of really bad, sad, dark, angry Mondays when it comes to New York football in the last number of years. This one today is up there. This is a top 5, one of those because of the circumstances. You had the Giants lose a miserable football game overseas to what we thought was the worst team in football. Now the Giants may be the worst team in football. Just a miserable watch. It just encapsulated everything the Giants have been over the last number of years. And then you get the Jets on a long week with their season on the line, getting the piss knocked out of them in Arizona. Embarrassing. Defense breaking tackles everywhere. Sauce Gardner, I'm just laughing my ass off as James Conner and Trey McBride are just bowling these guys over. Oh, and the offense was great, too, with a whole 6 points yesterday. So it's over for the Jets. It's officially over. Aaron Rodgers needs to retire at the end of this year. Joe Douglas, as much as we like him, is not going to be here. Jeff Ulbrich will be a D coordinator or a linebacker coach somewhere else. It's done. It's over. The experiment is dead. And it's as bad as it could have possibly gone, worse than we ever could have imagined. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm doing okay this Veterans Day as I'm wearing my USA sweatshirt and proud and in honor of all the veterans that have served and sacrificed for our country. So it's a huge day to reflect back on what they've done for us. I think you're right. We probably should spend the next 4 hours talking about all the great veterans that we have had in our own personal lives as well, including my dad and my godfather. But the football was horrific. I will say this. Watching the Giants and Panthers, okay, bad football teams do bad things. But at least the game was entertaining. At least the game went into overtime. At least the game actually had some juice to it.
Entertaining?
I would just say it had. I understand. They're bad teams. We know it. They have bad records. At least the Giants are still playing for their coach is what I'm saying. What they have is they have a quarterback who's completely hamstrung mentally.
Yeah.
It's paralysis by analysis for Daniel Jones. They left probably, I would say, a potential of anywhere from 9 to 20 points on the field by colossal boneheaded mistakes and missed opportunities. And I'm just sitting there because I want to see the body language of the players. I want to see what's going on between the coach and the player in between plays and things of that nature whenever they show it to you. And I thought Kurt Warner was perfect in the first half, explaining to people as nicely as he possibly could without really truly grilling Daniel Jones over the coals about the things that he was unable to do, the things he wasn't doing, and how he put his coach in a really, really tough spot. You can only draw up so many plays. The plays are going to be there, and either the quarterback pulls the trigger and throws the ball and the play is completed, or he doesn't see it, doesn't know what he's looking at, and is basically afraid to get himself involved and then takes a sack. It's frustrating watching. We all watch it. We all feel the same way. I don't want to hear about, offensive line problems. I don't want to hear about wide receiver problems or running back problems. I mean, it really comes down to in this league, does the quarterback have the balls to stand in there and make the plays? And unfortunately for Daniel Jones, or fortunately, any way you look at it, I mean, he's a very wealthy man. He had his moment in the sun for the Giants. But, the Giants now they have a decision to make. Do they continue with the same stuff over and over and over again because we see it week in and week out, or do they make a change? Now, whether they make a change for the better, do you want to win games now at this point? If you're a fan, you probably don't. If you're a player or a coach, you obviously do. But that at least that game had a little bit of competitiveness to it. As far as the Jets are concerned, it's an unmitigated disaster. And two things that I think. Number one, this defense is just absolutely getting run over. And Kyler Murray had 17 straight completions yesterday. He completed 22 out of 24.
Broke the record, the franchise record.
That's right. And James Conner just ran over. And anytime he saw Sauce Gardner, he wanted to run right at him because he knew Sauce Gardner wasn't going to do anything about it.
Didn't you have a franchise? That wasn't with the Cardinals, though.
523 on Veterans Day weekend.
Okay, but it wasn't. But completions in a row.
That was with the Jets.
That was with the Jets. Okay, all right. I was like, I wonder if Kyler Murray had broken your record out there. I was wondering that would have been poetic justice this morning.
No, but I would say that the thing for me, I hate to say it, man. It's like Aaron Rodgers has completely sucked the air out of the building, and I think so many guys are deferring to who he is in their minds, and in my mind, he is a first ballot Hall of Fame player. One of the great quarterbacks when he was in his prime that we have ever seen. Very few people throw the ball like him, and I used to say that Dan Marino, Joe Namath, and Aaron Rodgers all threw the ball significantly different than everybody else. Like, we've never seen anything like it. And I will go to my grave still thinking that those three players were that special when they were throwing the ball, and how they looked at throwing it was just so natural and amazing. But since he has come here over the last 2 years, every player on this team, I feel like, has deferred everything to him. And the reason I say that is because Russell Wilson said something about Mike Williams yesterday, and it was being reported during the game that when Mike Williams showed up to Pittsburgh, he showed up with such a big smile, and he was so happy, like he was so unencumbered by playing for the Jets and with the Jets and with Aaron Rodgers, that he makes the game-winning touchdown catch over his left shoulder in an amazing sequence of events, because the reason he's on the field is because a guy that would have been out there on the field gets hurt on the previous play, and that's the only reason he's out there. And Russell Wilson has the confidence to throw him the football, and it was a game-winning touchdown pass. And what Russell was talking about, Mike Williams, basically gives you a real perspective of what's going on in that locker room over there for the Jets.
Yeah, and when you are a franchise that is in desperate need of a savior, and the savior is supposed to come in and bring you back to the heights of the organization, we're talking about Lombardi's, that's what's going to happen. It's almost like, okay, he's going to come in and we're going to be great. He's going to come in and this team and this franchise is going to be back on top, and everybody's just looking at him to fix it. He comes in, he gets hurt, he rehabs his ass off, he comes back, he's now 41 years old, he can't move, he can't throw the way that he used to, and the team is crumbling under the pressure. The owner is going nuts and doing all sorts of things that he shouldn't be doing, and the whole thing is just bottomed out. I mean, the organization, I keep saying it every week, it's just rotten. The organization is rotten. And now, I think this morning, we have the end of the Aaron Rodgers era with the Jets and the end of the Daniel Jones era with the Giants. I think it both ended yesterday, where we're not going to see these guys next year. I don't know how in the hell, if you're Aaron Rodgers, unless it's a pride thing where you think you can come back and at least end your career on a positive note, why you would come back and do this. It's just
somebody will want him next year. It may not be the Jets. The Jets may move on and not most likely.
Why would he want to play?
I know, but here's the point: they'll have a new coach here. Devontae Adams is not going to be here. His contract's written so that he can go and play somewhere else after this year is over with. I mean, it will be a total cleaning out of everything again. And it's unfortunate that I say that because, as we've often said here on this radio program, really like Joe Douglas.
Yes,
and we really, we like Rob Saleh as a person. It's just that there were so many things that were going wrong for him that, he just never had a chance to win games here and feel what it's like to win games here. And when you have a losing record, you're going to end up getting fired in this league. That's like, you think when Joe Shane got that job as the GM of the Giants, he's thinking, oh, man, this is going to be great. I'm going to be here for 25 years.
Well, no. I mean, I think all those guys understand how it's like a year-to-year business. And by the way, speaking of the Rob Saleh firing, it seems like every single team that fires a head coach during the year gets a boost the next week, except the Jets. And you see it with the Saints yesterday with this guy who's clogging toilets before the game, and everybody's laughing, and then they come out, and then they win. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, from Antonio Pierce to Rich Bisaccia to Dan Campbell when he was with the Dolphins. You can go on and on and on with these guys who come in, and then they end up coaching and for a couple of weeks, and the team is all of a sudden got new energy, except for the Jets, who have gotten worse. I mean, and to have them just on defense essentially just get punched in the mouth over and over and over again and do nothing about it. I mean, it's almost like they're spent, they're done. They're like we've had it. We tried, and now it's just not working. And to go from where Davante Adams comes in, fresh eyes into the organization, and sees immediately, is like, man, like no one's cheering for each other, or no one's standing up when there's a good play. And then he tries to instill that mindset into the team, and all of they've done is put out a performance like that yesterday on a long week with essentially their season on the line.
And the Mike Williams reaction to going to Pittsburgh tells you all you need to know.
The place is
tells all you need to know that they deferred way too much. It feels like it anyway. What the accurate aspect of it is, you only would know if you were inside that building. But it just feels like I don't know if you want to call it the greatness of Aaron Rodgers overwhelmed the entire locker room. And that's the thing, where the quarterback becomes too much of the team. I think about that late in Dan Marino's career when Jimmy Johnson took over.
Yeah.
I think it was Wayne Huizenga was the coach. I mean, the owner. I believe it was him. And it's like, okay, I need a strong head coach to deal with my strong quarterback, and I need to eventually get away from the quarterback who's like in his 16th year with a bad Achilles. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the coach's personality will be able to kind of change the direction of the franchise. Now, it never really happened, and I don't necessarily know that Jimmy Johnson and Dan Marino really care for each other, but I can understand why. Because you have two really A-type personalities going at it, and one trying to do what the owner wants and the other one trying to, cement his career and still wants to play because he could still play, but just didn't want to play under those circumstances that Jimmy Johnson wanted him to play under. Yeah. I just feel like that the enormity of the personality, the Pat McAfee show, the whole thing with Netflix, the way the 2 years that Aaron's been here, I mean, he has been everywhere, and I don't know if it's really his fault. I think it's just it's really a manufacturing of thinking that he was going to be Superman when he came here and he was going to fix all the problems. When in actuality, maybe now he's turned out to be part of the problem. And I watch their offense. I don't see a lot of different ideas or creativity. I see a lot of back shoulder throws and goes down the sideline, and all that stuff is fine in the NFL when you're good at it.
Right. When you're young and talented and in your prime, like Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams were. But when you've got guys now that are half of Aaron Rodgers' age, that are the corners, and the guys coming after him are half of his age, it just doesn't work. And then Davante Adams is in his 30s now, too. It's just not going to work that way. And just thinking about the Jets, too, and how other organizations, things happen for them, but not for the Jets. As I mentioned, the boost from firing the coach in the middle of the season. Think about these other examples where Peyton Manning goes to the Broncos, wins a Super Bowl. Tom Brady goes to the Bucs, wins a Super Bowl. Brett Favre comes to the Jets, ends up being a disaster in the end after a good start, and then there's a penis picture scandal. Then he goes to the Vikings after that, takes them to the NFC Championship game, and has an almost MVP season. Right? And then Aaron Rodgers comes here, and it's the biggest disaster in the world.
And that's why I tell you that I could see Aaron playing somewhere else next year.
It's amazing.
If he wanted to play next year, I could see him playing. Because you know why? There's going to be teams that are going to need quarterbacks, man. I mean, the Giants are going to need a quarterback. I don't know where they're going to get one from. Right now, after Shedeur Sanders, I don't really know necessarily there's a guy that's going to move the needle at this moment as we sit here right now. So they're going to have to be thinking, okay, we got to get somebody in here and who is that person? Who is that veteran quarterback that can come in here if they decide to keep Shane and Dable that could run Brian Dable's offense?
Well, I mean, I don't think Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he ends up with the Giants.
No, I don't think so either. But
I mean, Dak Prescott might be a guy. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy off a big injury in his contract. But you're right. The point being made is you either draft the guy or you're kind of screwed. We've seen a couple of these guys move we didn't expect. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, neither one of those really worked out in the first place they were at. Russell Wilson's now won 3 games in a row with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see how that ends up. But, yeah, I mean, the only way that the Giants get out of this thing is if they get the next Jaden Daniels. I mean, that's the only way they can get out of it.
How do the Jets get out of it?
Well, they have to. I mean, the same thing, obviously. But they're at this point. I think that you'll have the same GM and head coach with the Giants. I really do believe that next year. I don't think John Mara moves on from them after this season. With the Jets, there's so much there. First of all, nobody worth
anything in the eyes of the NFL and its peers is going to take that Jet job. Nobody.
Could you see Aaron Rodgers go? Let's just say, New Orleans hires somebody and they want to start over. They want to get rid of their car. Could you see him going down there for a year, indoors in that division, kind of like Kirk Cousins is doing?
If he wants to play, yeah. But, I mean, I also think that Aaron Rodgers is a guy who has thought about – I even asked him this. I don't know if it was the first time or the second time. I said, you strike me as a guy like I see – I think it was this year. I was like, Tom Brady, gets into broadcasting. Peyton Manning does the Manning cast. I said, I feel like when you're done, you're done. Like, we're not going to see it. And he's like, you got that right. So he's been thinking about his next thing for a very long time. He almost – was the RFK Jr.'s VP, as his running mate this year.
He can go work with RFK in the,
He could.
In the healthcare space.
He could. I mean, I just don't know when you look like this and you play like this and you came off a massive rehab, and I give him credit for working so hard to come back, but you're playing like this, why you would want to try to do it again. The only reason why would be like this just ended on such a bad note that he doesn't want to go out like that, but I don't even think that he thinks like that.
Hey, by the way, that's exactly what happened with Brett Favre. Now, Brett Favre was a little bit younger, but still, that's exactly what happened. Brett came here, had this he got to a height, and then all of a sudden he got hurt, and he played hurt because he's a maniac. And you got to admire that about somebody because they want to be out on the field. That's the great thing about Eli Manning. Eli Manning played all those games, showed up every weekend. Whether you liked it or not, he was there every weekend for his team. And that's a crowning achievement, if you ask me, that you can make it through an entire career without missing a game due to injury.
Sure,
that's ridiculous. Yeah. But, does Aaron Rodgers want to – I can't talk for him or speak for him, but this has got to be as baffling to him as it is to all of us. And sometimes he's got to look at himself, and they got to look at him, and they got to decide, whether or not they want to run it back again next year with a new coach. I don't see it. I think whoever the new coach is, whoever that is going to say, hey, look, man, I am starting over, man. I am, because there are some good players here. There's no question about that. But I mean, this is between both these teams here in the city. It is keep your head down and go to work time and don't say too many things.
Yeah, and I am going to be really fascinated to see who ends up taking this job. It's not an attractive job. It's just not. I mean, and there are guys like Joe Douglas and Rob Saleh, and I know Rob Saleh wasn't a good head coach, but within NFL circles, he's very well liked. You saw how his buddy Matt LaFleur brings him right back to Green Bay. Bill Belichick is slamming Woody Johnson on national TV for firing Rob Saleh. And people like Rob Saleh. And people really respected Joe Douglas and where he came from. Multiple organizations loved him, the Ravens and the Eagles. I mean, they're going to look at what happened here and how those guys got run through the meat grinder and be like, I'm not going to be next. Are you kidding me? Those two highly respected guys that were on their way up just walked into the Jets' engines and got chopped up into a million pieces. I ain't doing that. No. And you're going to get more guys like Ben Johnson out there that'll be like hand-picking and choosing organizations. The Jets will be at the bottom of the list for the good candidates.
Well, you know that Mike Vrabel is going to get a job. You know that Bill Belichick's going to get a job. And you know that Ben Johnson is going to be offered a job. Whether he takes it or not, that's a whole other story. And then the question is, what jobs are attractive, what jobs aren't attractive? And I would probably say that the Jet job right now, because Jeff Ulbricht's an interim head coach, the Jet job right now is probably the worst possible job you could get of the available jobs that we will see at the end of the season.
Yeah, agreed. That's why John Gruden's got to come here. Boomer and Gio on the Fan at CBS Sports Network.